The moment I stepped into the atrium, I felt the familiar chill of the air conditioning and the cold contempt of the woman at the center of the room. Cassandra Sterling, my brother's impossibly polished fiancée, was laughing. A brittle, expensive sound, surrounded by her inner circle of designer-clad friends. I was barely through the doors when I heard her voice, sharp enough to cut the Italian marble beneath my feet. "Oh, look," Cassie drawled, not even bothering to glance my way. "The swamp gas heiress is here. Did she bring her muck boots?" Her friends tittered, their laughter rolling together in a synchronized wave of ridicule. To them, I was Juniper Wild, the embarrassing little sister who'd crawled out of our dusty, forgotten hometown of Cedar Creek to ruin the aesthetic of this glamorous engagement party. What Cassie didn't know, what nobody in that ballroom knew, was that I didn't just sign the deed to this hotel, the Starlight Manor, 3 years ago. I built the holding company, the Obsidian Group, from the ground up. Every crystal teardrop on the chandeliers, every thread of the velvet drapes, and every square inch of Prime City real estate beneath her $3,000 heels belonged to me, and by the time the dessert service arrived, Cassie Sterling would learn that the swamp gas heiress was about to extinguish her entire, carefully fabricated life. My name is Juniper Wild, but everyone calls me June. I'm 33 years old. I grew up in a place where the only inheritance was the knowledge that hard work was the only way out. My older brother, Callan, was the golden boy, the charismatic heir apparent to a small, failing logging business. Everything I did was dismissed as unimportant next to Callan's supposed destiny. When I left home at 19, our mother, Helena, didn't ask where I was going. She simply asked if I'd watered Callan's roses. I took a bus to the city with nothing but $300 and a fierce refusal to fail. I started small, working as a concierge. I didn't just pour coffee. I learned the market, the supply chains, the tax loopholes, and the power of undervalued properties. I saved, I borrowed, I risked. And by 30, I launched the Obsidian Group, a quiet force in luxury boutique hotels. I kept my success a secret. My family, who never asked how I was, assumed I was still struggling. Because real power, I learned, watches from the back of the room. It doesn't need to shout. Tonight, I was here because my mother, Helena, had sent me a strained, last-minute invitation. I needed to see what masterpiece my golden brother had acquired. I found a quiet spot by the bar, and my general manager, Marcus Thorne, caught my eye. He gave me a subtle, professional nod. The Starlight Manor was flawless. Then Mom found me. She approached with a sigh of disappointment. "It's good you could fit us in, June, but darling, those boots." She glanced down. "Couldn't you have worn something more urban?" She lowered her voice. "Cassie's parents, the Sterlings, are highly esteemed." Then she paused. "And please, don't mention the old logging business. They think Callan is in venture capital." I swallowed the familiar bitterness. Callan appeared, polished, distracted. "Glad you made it, Junebug," he said, already looking over my shoulder. "Have you met Cassie's parents? Alistair and Vivian Sterling?" He smiled. Absolute titans. As he led me toward them, I saw it. Dangling from Cassie's neck was a delicate antique silver locket. Our great-grandmother's locket. The one promised to me on her deathbed. The betrayal of my inheritance hit me like a physical blow. I forced a tight smile as I was introduced to Alistair, a large man with a booming laugh that didn't reach his eyes, and Vivian, all severe elegance. As I shook Alistair's hand, I noticed the rough texture of his skin, a strange contrast to his perfect attire. Something was deeply wrong. I excused myself and retreated to the dimly lit lounge. That's when I found Elias Vance, a renowned and ruthless financier and a longtime rival of mine. Waiting in the shadows, he observed me with a shark-like smile. "June Wild," he said, "what are you doing in the back of your own establishment? Hiding from your little brother's circus?" My blood ran cold. "Elias, you look confused. This is a private party." "I know exactly what this is," he sneered. "It's a high-stakes con, and I'm here for a viewing." He leaned in closer, his voice dropping into a conspiratorial growl. "The Sterlings, or whatever their names are this year, are after something bigger than Callan's fake venture capital." He paused, letting it sink in. They're after the exclusive North Atlantic trade route contract. It's an old, incredibly valuable family asset tied up in Callan's name. He's the only one who can sign it over. He studied my face, his eyes glittering. I'm one of the people they've fleeced before. $250 million in Singapore. A beat. I'm here to take the contract before they can. The sterlings are mine. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a wedding scam. This was an international asset grab. My brother wasn't a groom. He was a pawn. And the game involved a ruthless financier who knew my biggest secret. That I owned. The Starlight Manor. I left Elias without another word and rushed to the administrative office. I called my lawyer, Lena Reyes, then my forensic accountant, Omar Hassan. I needed everything on Alistair, Vivian, and Cassandra Sterling. Everything. And I needed it. In an hour. Before we dive into the next chapter of June's desperate race against time, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Your support means the world to me as I craft these stories. Now, back to the Starlight Manor. The calls came back quickly. Omar was first. Sterling is fake. The parents are wanted in 3 countries. They operate as the Valdez Syndicate. The daughter, Cassie, her real name is Valerie Nash. She's their handler. Then Lena Reyes confirmed the second twist. The trade route contract is real. It's a clandestine asset Callan inherited, immensely valuable, but legally complex. The marriage is their key to the signature. They're not marrying for love. They're marrying for a $500 million asset. I went back to the ballroom. Cassie cornered me. Her sweet smile was gone. I know about you, Juniper, she hissed. I know you send those anonymous payments to your mother from your Birch. Hospitality? Dummy corporation. The ones she thinks are from Callan. I kept my face neutral. Cassie's smile turned dark. But here's what I know that you don't. She leaned in. I know the real reason Callan keeps the trade route contract a secret. He didn't just inherit it. He forged documents to seize control of it from your grandfather on his deathbed. She watched me carefully. It's fraud, June. We offered him a clean way out. Marry me, sign the contract over, and we make the problem disappear. A pause. He chose us, June. He chose the con artist over his own family. That was the moment it broke. The ultimate betrayal hit me all at once. Callan wasn't an innocent victim. He was a desperate criminal who had sold his sister and our family legacy to save his own skin. He called you the muckboot's sister, Cassie finished, cruelty gleaming in her eyes. He said nobody would miss you. She patted my arm, slow and patronizing. Now stay quiet. And stay small. My plan shifted in that instant. From family protection to strategic elimination. I called Marcus Thorne. I need the AV system ready for an unscheduled presentation at 9 p.m. Locked down the ballroom. My final call was to Elias Vance. Elias, I have the evidence to take down the Valdez Syndicate. I want a full pardon for Callan's fraud and immunity for my family. In exchange, I'll give you the Sterling's location and proof of their trade route plan. You get the revenge and the contract. A beat. You're playing a very dangerous game. June, Elias said, a hint of admiration in his voice. Yes, you have a deal. My team will be outside. 9 p.m. Alistair Sterling stepped onto the stage for his toast. A nauseating speech about family values and glorious legacies. I caught Marcus's eye and gave the signal. The screens behind the stage, once filled with smiling couple photos, flickered, then changed. A document appeared. A court order from The Hague, stamped with international seals, detailing the Valdez Syndicate's global fraud operation. A gasp rippled through the room. Alistair's voice faltered. The screens changed again. A photograph of Cassandra Sterling appeared. Younger, sharper, under a different name, Valerie Nash. Below it, a headline, Valdez Syndicate heiress sought in Singapore diamond scam. Alistair panicked, shouting for the lights. Vivian whispered furiously into her phone. Cassie stood frozen. I walked through the parting crowd toward the stage, my boots clicking against the marble floor. The same floor I'd been mocked for standing on. Marcus's voice boomed over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the owner of the Starlight Manor. and CEO of the Obsidian Group, Ms. Juniper Wilde. I took the microphone from Alistair's trembling hand. The silence was absolute. Callan's jaw dropped. Helena looked faint. I apologize for the interruption, I said, my voice steady. But it seems we have a small discrepancy in the guest list. I let my gaze move across the room. Alistair and Vivian Sterling, or rather the Valdez Syndicate, are wanted for high-value investment fraud. Then I pointed to Cassie. And the bride, Valerie Nash, is their handler. Their sole purpose here was to extort the ownership of an exclusive trade contract from my brother Callan, under the threat of exposing his old family fraud. Cassie screamed. Liar, you're a jealous pauper. Am I? I asked calmly, raising an eyebrow. Then perhaps you can explain why 2 Interpol agents and Mr. Elias Vance's private security team are currently surrounding this hotel. The ballroom doors opened. Agents with official badges stepped inside. Alongside formidable private security, Alistair bolted, but didn't make it far. He was intercepted and cuffed. Vivian collapsed into dramatic sobs. Cassie turned to Callan, desperation cracking her face. Callan, tell them you love me. Tell them this is a lie. Callan looked at the screens, at the locket on her neck, at the police, and then at me. He stepped away from her. I don't know who you are, he whispered. Broken, but certain. Cassie lunged at me, screaming that I was the one who ruined everything. The bitter little sister who had always been nothing. Security restrained her. I leaned in close as they cuffed her. The bitter little sister, I murmured, doesn't need your approval. She owns this place, paid for the caterers, and just ensured your fake family spends the next decade behind bars. I held her gaze. Enjoy the view. She was led away screaming threats. I turned to the stunned guests. The bar is open. The catering is excellent. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. The DJ didn't miss a beat. An upbeat jazz track filled the room. The engagement party was over. The celebration had just begun. 3 weeks later, I sat in the penthouse office of the Starlight Manor. The story made headlines. Billionaire hotel CEO exposes international con artists at family engagement. Elias Vance held up his end of the deal. Callan's assets were absorbed into the Obsidian Group, and the trade route contract was finalized in Elias's favor, ensuring Callan's legal immunity. Callan came to my office yesterday. It was the first time he had seen the reality of my life, the sheer scale of my empire. He apologized for 20 years of dismissing me and for making the wrong choice. I told him we had a long way to go, but we would start by being honest. Helena was another matter. I told her the anonymous payments she believed Callan had been sending had come from me for the last 4 years. The silence was deafening. She finally admitted she didn't know how to be a mother to me. I told her I could teach her, but only if she was willing to learn. This morning I stood in the lobby, watching the hotel hum with life. A young woman walked in, nervous, carrying a worn briefcase. I recognized her instantly. Clara Jensen, the recipient of this year's Obsidian Group scholarship. A girl from a dusty town, who had worked 3 jobs to get here. A loud, boorish investor, Mr. Davies, spotted her. Who let that delivery girl in? He sneered. I walked over to the young woman, extended my hand, and smiled warmly. Welcome, Clara. I'm so glad you could make it. I turned to the table of investors. Everyone, this is Clara Jensen. She grew up on a farm with nothing but stubbornness and a dream. She is about to begin her journey at Columbia Business School. I led Clara to the table. Overwhelmed, she whispered a thank you. Don't thank me yet, Clara, I said, leaning in. Thank yourself. And remember this. The world will always try to make you feel small for where you came from. Let them. Because while they're looking down at your muck boots, they won't see you rising up. That's when you take the table. I watched Clara sit straighter, a spark of confidence lighting her eyes. The golden child facade had crumbled. The con artists were gone. And the quiet, underestimated girl from the back of the room was finally, definitively, the one in charge. Thank you so much for reading June's story. If you enjoyed this dramatic tale of revenge, family secrets, and the triumph of the underdog, please let me know. Hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next story. And tell me in the comments, what should June do next? Should she keep Callan at arm's length or fully help him rebuild his life? I read every single one of your comments.